all the time. You cannot complain all the time. So
good.
If you have lots to complain, be quiet. And if you're happy, spread the happiness. This is what I do.
Okay, so you're spreading the happiness. That's the nice part. That's what we like about you. So, but Deniz, what we're going to do is you'll have to give me a minute, just a minute. Let me just put up what we're doing here, and then we'll just get into your session, because it's, but also at the same time, I'm going to put you on the spot and you are going to tell us about the conference also. But give me just one, not even 1 second, but just give me just a second to give us put up what the topic is. I just want to put that up. So this is what we're doing. What Deniz has chosen this topic, which is, come on, is open or not opening? It's decided not to open on me.
It's okay. Surprise!
Sometimes this does this to me.
Surprise!
It's decided that, yeah, I don't know why it's decided that it's going to do this to me. This is Baiye's session. It wants to open. It wants to open Baiye's session. Okay, let me just put it up again. But look, normally what happens is that the last session goes on, can go on as long. So this session, I just took it a little longer because that was also very important discussion. So I just took a little more time. Normally I start my sessions on time only. Yes, finally we're up here. So Deniz has chosen a very important topic, intercultural mediation. Obviously, that's really important. And Baiye is also there. But Deniz, something about the conference first. Can you tell us a little bit about the conference?
Well, I tell you one thing. I really, very honestly, I'm a mediator. I was in how to say, in parentheses, a mediator since 2000. And I became a mediator because I witnessed Eastern Bloc in Europe fallen apart. I witnessed ex-Yugoslavia war. I witnessed Austria being not a neutral country, but being part of EU. And I came to Turkey and I witnessed the whole changes in Turkey. So I really wanted to be the mediator. Mediator really, in a sense, with this huge, how to say, dream of changing the whole world, you know, and bringing peace and everybody is nice and fine and happy. And I realized while I was doing all this work years back that I've been doing all this work because I had my own conflicts. And before I could ever welcome my own conflict, that I could face them, that I could embrace them, that I accept myself with all those conflicts, I could do nothing. It's just a, you know, it's like a fantasy. So, yes, it was a journey for me that I could meet myself. And the more I've been knowing myself, the more I went through all this process. Then I suddenly, a year back, decided, yes, I don't want to deal with conflicts anymore. I don't want that people are coming to me and saying, I have this problem, I have that problem. I want that people are laughing around me. I want that people are happy around me, because the job we choose becomes how we are, what we are, or with what we face to. That's why I started studying recreation, and I became a recreational therapist. Now I tell you this because before mediation, my profession 14 years was fashion. Then I did 2000 to 2002, yeah, 22 years I did mediation. And now I changed. So anybody can say anything about mediation, and I do appreciate a lot about those conference series. Kenneth is my hero, and not only hero, I was so lucky to be a member of the board of MBB. I was sitting next to Ken because he was my dream mediator, but then suddenly I was at the same board. He was next to me, and so I appreciate all this conference series. I do appreciate your work. I definitely 100% believe mediation is needed. Now I do work for sustainability. You see, the world is changing to another level. And I think sustainability is the main issue. Forget about nationality, forget about religion, forget about everything. It becomes our being or not being. This is the stage of
exist
the whole
or not to
world.
exist.
Yes, to be or not to be. That is exactly where we are. And sustainability means we need more work of mediators and negotiators, in a sense that the production, if it goes like this, will kill the whole world. And if we keep on consuming like this, it is like committing suicide. So really, it's another level if we think about mediation and skills of negotiation. It is most needed now, but I see it not in a micro level any longer, because I did lots of projects on this. I mean, with prison projects, with commercial, with school, with many projects. But I think I see myself at a global level, and sustainability is our real issue now. And I hope, Vikram, with this program, and I hope all these efforts will will create awareness micro level, but will spread to macro level. And really, we have to consider dealing with our own conflicts within our environment, but we have to survive global issues, and sustainability is one of them. And so really there is lots of things to do for every mediator. And I hope your conference will bring us to this. So we all became a global citizen, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know whether you read about the World Mediation Circle and all. The idea is this: that at the macro level, you have the World Mediation Circle, but you have mediation circles which are created in every school, every community, every organization. So everyone's part of the whole, but is also looking at things at the grassroots level. And on a it's not just a community related or whatever, it's issue based. So we have a global climate change mediation circle, and we have a climate change mediation circle at the local level also. So all those discussions that have to happen, because everyone's affected. I mean, what is happening at the local level affects globally affects the local situation. So we'll do all that, but you have to get involved in it, Deniz. You have to be part of what's happening.
Yes. I am part of sustainability now.
Sustainability only. We'll do sustainability only. We'll work on only that part with you. But to create those circles on a macro and micro level, all that you have to participate. That is how the movement goes forward. Yeah. You just spoke about Ken. Ken has been so nice. He's like, I keep saying, he's the face of the resolution revolution. It's for people like him to have there, who actually, like, I mean, if you've been with him, the energy that he brings, the beautiful soul that he is. So such a nice thing to have such a person there.
You see, many people may say that they are mediators. I may say myself, but I'm not always a mediator. Sometimes I'm terrible. Yeah, I'm a human being, you know. I just agree myself. I accept myself the way I am. But Ken is a real mediator. So between he and me, that was the difference. And I am a human being and he's a pure mediator. And Ken, I'm so happy
Okay.
that I met you and I know you. So now,
No, not
if
now. No,
you allow me, I
no.
can
We can't allow you. First, we have to get Baiye to introduce herself. Baiye, are you going to introduce yourself? Why do you disappear? Baiye is gone somewhere. She goes in, comes in, and goes out. For okay, no problem. I think, please, but you can. I think you can get your presentation going. We'll get her when she comes in.
Okay.
She's here. She's here.
Ah,
She's here.
here she is.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. I'm so sorry. I'm Baiye Frida Ebai. I'm from Cameroon. I'm a women, peace and security expert, mother of 7. And I love mediation and negotiation because it reduces human loss. It reduces livelihoods, and it makes economic and social growth favorable in countries, especially in Africa. Thank you.
Great work. What Baiye is doing is great work in Cameroon. So it's nice to have her with us. Yes, Deniz, you want to take us through your presentation first? How do you want to do that?
Well, I have a little bit of slides I send you and I can share as well. But I only want to, I chose intercultural mediation as a topic, not because that I have been doing many intercultural mediation or so, but as because I come from an intercultural background. And as I told you, from the macro level, it is when it comes to sustainability as well, we are going through more and more intercultural mediation, or we have to consider more this aspect. That's why I chose actually intercultural mediation. And so I really would like my dear Frida, yes, I hope you can join me because I'm talking. I love to talk, okay? And then you can join me anytime with your experiences. Yes. Just cut me. It doesn't matter. It's not only my presentation. The same
that's fine by me.
Okay?
Yes. And I also have Bushum Samuel, who is a practitioner on the ground on intercultural mediation. So he will be coming in from time to time too. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So first is that I come from, my background is intercultural in that sense, from nationality wise. I have Turkish people in my family. I have Russians. I have people from Azerbaijan. I have Laos, we call it, from Black Sea coast. So from nationality, let's say, or ethnical roots, I have different cultures. Then from religious wise, I have Shias, I have Sunnis, I have Christians, and then I have Jewish people. And so within this family I was born into, and then I was grown. It was not only the family, but within the city I was born and in the geography, I had even more additions to that. And so I always had this question, you know, when you go to the school, the teacher is saying, our religion is the best. Okay, best. Yeah, I mean, if somebody is saying the best, then you have to ask, okay, what was the before? You know, I mean, if you are talking about the best, then it means there were worse or there was good, better, best, you know, what are the others? And so I really, you know, they are saying selected. Okay, according to what it is selected, you know, you ask, I mean, 8 billion people in the whole world now, I mean, selected to according to what? Selected, you know? I mean, okay, 30 years ago, we were not 8 billions, but still we were a couple of billions. So I always had that question, you know, I mean, when we are talking about the best, what was the past and how you became the best and, you know, all these questions. So I decided I really have to answer them. I mean, if I say I believe in this religion, then I have to have my own reasons, not because somebody tells me. And if I say these are my values, I have to know because, well, these are my values, I decide them. And all those things. And if I have a moral rule, then I have to know myself that is a good rule. It is my rule. This is how I was born, and this is how I developed my entire life, and this is how I traveled all around the world. And not only that I was grown up into this family, but then I was married to my first husband, was half British, half Scottish. And then I lived 14 years in Austria, witnessing everything. So I was even more, how to say, intercultural. Now, if you allow me, I think I can share screen.
Yep.
And then let me see. I will share. I don't know how. Wait a minute. I see it, but I cannot share here. Why not?
You want me to share it? I can share it if you want. You want me to do it?
I see it. Well, let me see if I can. You can see it now.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah?
It's coming up. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to go for a little bit. You know, this was my experience about culture. And I was lucky because, you see, if you are within a culture, if you live within a culture, you do not understand that you are living in a culture unless you meet another culture. You see, you don't know it because you just like a fish in a bowl. You don't know what is outside this bowl. So I was lucky because I was born in such a multicultural environment. And culture in that sense, as a definition, means shared beliefs and values and customs, behaviors, traditions, and artifacts that characterize a particular group of people. In my case, I had many. I can imagine for Vikram case in India, must be lots of them, yes?
Amazing.
Lots of groups, diverse, dialects, and beliefs as well, you know, values, many things. And when we are really talking more, I don't know how it is with Frida, but this is in India, more or less, it's the same like I experienced in Turkey. And when we talk about culture, when we say beliefs and values, actually we are thinking about people, thoughts, actions, judgments, and this may be, depending on religion, it could have ethical, moral, or philosophical nature. So if one culture is more religious, it means the values will go more religious, and if it is, let's say, more moral and less religious, so it goes this way. Customs and traditions show practices and rituals that are observed and followed by the group. And they often reflect historical, religious, and social significance. For example, in Turkey, even though we have been for 100 years, let's say majority is a Sunni Muslim, we have so much and still shamanic rituals. It cannot be changed, you know. For example, if I wish, okay, Vikram, let me give this sample. I wish to be part of Vikram's program. So I go to a famous tree, I put a kind of colorful cloth. I wish, I wish on being Vikram's program. This is totally shamanic. It has nothing to do with the Sunni religion or belief or whatever. But we still have it because it has been even longer in the Turkish tradition. So even the Sunni Muslim, Islam for long years didn't take it away. So this is a practice people do. And if you are in Turkey, if you walk through the streets and if you see a tree with colorful, I don't know, ribbons and threads and so on, you know that it is a wish tree actually, and it has shamanic roots. And language and communication is actually language and communication is transmission of ideas, knowledge, and values between individuals, and actually also reflect cultural perspective and way of thinking. So even it's really interesting. Turkey is a big country, not as big as India, but it's a big country. And if you go from east to west or north to south or whatever, you can easily find out within the words, you know, I mean, you realize that the word means another part of culture, which, for example, if I live in Istanbul, somebody from East Turkey or South Turkey would use a word that I would not use, but it is part of that region's culture. And social organization, well, actually, culture influences also the way societies are structured, organized, and it defines social roles, family structures, system of governance, as well as patterns of social interaction and hierarchies. Some societies, as we know, are more hierarchical and some are more equal. And when we are talking about system of governance, unfortunately, the whole world is going more towards autocracy than democracy, and I hope soon this will change. Arts and expressive forms, culture also encompasses various artistic expressions, literature, visual arts. When I say literature, for example, in my culture in Turkey, even the Turkish spoken in Anatolia and the literature having more emotion, and this emotion is sad because Anatolia always had wars. So it's really, there has always been a group of people suffering. So the literature is a lot about this pain. Visual arts, music, dance, theater, and film. And material culture, which is clothing, tools, architecture, technology, and other tangible elements. For example, clothing in Turkey, a simple thing we may consider, but this can be a huge problem. For example, on one side, the women with headscarves would say we would like to have headscarves because it's our freedom, understandable. On the other hand side, the religious group may say, oh, this woman wearing a mini skirt, she deserves to be raped. We heard that. Can you imagine the mind? But this is part of the culture. Unfortunately, what has been changing in Turkey the last years.
But then that seems to be a very interesting fashion show. The picture that you put there of those three women, that models. That fashion show must have been an interesting fashion show, I'm saying, in the last slide that you had.
Well, I tell you, we had, for example, the year I came back to Turkey was 2003. And we had a very interesting, wonderful swimwear company called Zeki Triko, wonderful company. I really loved the big advertisement and everything they had. And they suddenly they were known because they had very imaginative advertisements, okay, similar to Palmer's, although it was underwear in Austria. Zeki Triko was in Turkey. And a couple of years after, they did not allow Zeki Triko's advertisement in the billboards, and the Zeki Triko was protesting this, putting like eggplant, tomato, cucumber, you know, funny vegetables as an advertisement, and it was written Zeki Triko. But it was not any longer the swimsuit. So yes, we have fashion shows, but it never is like how it was. There are concerts are not any longer the way we used to have. And there are lots of, from the religious groups or the religious local governments are forbidding concerts. And the artists, let's say singers or I don't know, actors, actresses, when they are saying what they think, they are protested by the religious group or the governing party. And so changed a lot, really changed a lot. And
but this is only in Istanbul or all over? Because Antalya, I heard was a little more liberal in that there's
it's all over Turkey, actually, unfortunately. So this is it's a huge cultural change we are witnessing, let's say, the last 20 years in Turkey. So this is a fact and we cannot change. I mean, at the moment, this is the situation. But coming back to conflict, you know, when I was mentioning the definition of culture and then what it means, actually, the 6 points. The conflict, there can be many definitions of conflict, yes. And I always like to say, when we talk about conflict, we talk about differences. So these differences could be about an idea, it could be interests, it could be needs, it could be maybe the roles, maybe the way we do things, maybe about the way we think, about our values, it doesn't matter. At least 2 people or more have difference about something. It doesn't matter what, okay? This something is sometimes negotiable and sometimes it is not. For example, you cannot negotiate religion. You can only maybe run some dialogue sessions so that people can hear each other, but you cannot negotiate on religion. If a group says it's God's words, there is nothing to negotiate. You know what I mean? But you can only organize some dialogue sessions, fine, hear each other, fine, but you cannot really negotiate. So, but I always say, if we talk about conflict, we talk about at least 2, minimum 2 or more people having differences about something. And this something could be either negotiable, not, it could be spoken or not, it could even lead these 2 people or more people or even the countries into a war. But there is always a simple difference. And when we talk about culture and until now, what we have been going through, this difference could be about thoughts, about actions, about judgments, about history. For example, Turkey have a conflict with Armenia for long years. It's a historical conflict. They believe in something else and we believe in something else. That's it. It could be religion. Some says we are selected, we are the best. Oh God, okay, fine. What they say is the true, the best. And the others are saying, I don't believe in anything. Here you are, the difference, the conflict. It could be social significance. It could be about ideas. Most of the time in the company, we face this or not. One manager is saying one thing, the other is saying another thing, even between wife and husband. It could be about knowledge. One could base the knowledge to a book and the other could base it on 100 books. So the knowledge is different, the values are different. Social rules, family structure, system of governance, hierarchy, literature, music, dance, visual arts, theater, film, clothing, tools, architecture, technology. So conflict happens. These are all instruments of culture. So if two or more people are having differences on any of those topics, we talk about dispute or whatever you say, conflict. And when we talk about those, it means we are talking about a cultural conflict. On the other hand side, we have to always, as a mediator, keep in mind that culture shapes the way that very individual perceive the world. On the other hand side, culture is not static. For example, 20 years, 30 years back, and today in Turkey, the things are completely different. In some things are for a better and some things are for worse, but things are different. And I am very sure whole world has the same. For example, a simple thing. When I was in a high school, this was 84, 85, I suppose. There was an American series on TV. It's called Dallas. Do you know Dallas?
Yeah.
Yes, there was this what was that? The bad guy, yes. And there was this poor Bobby. You know, all our stories and all this folk stories, whatever you may say, it always is the fight between good and bad, you know. And in Dallas, JR, the bad one, always won against the good one, Bobby. This was a total culture shock in everywhere in the world. I'm sure in India it was the same. I mean, I'm sure in India you had billions of stories that the good always win against the bad. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Mythological to, I don't know, they live stories, but Dallas was different. Dallas was like JR bad, the worst man won against this poor Bobby, the good. So it was the era of the bad. So this is like really end of 80s, 86, 85, 80, I don't know, those period. The whole world changed to another, have to say, level. Before that, we always had another story, but this is how the culture changed. And another fact, you know, Turkey was a closed community until, again, the similar time, the period, end of 80s. And they wanted to bring pizza to Turkey. And if you do not know Turkey very much, it's called the lahmacun. It's like pizza, but very thin bread, and it's minced meat about the bread, okay? It's exactly like pizza, very thin bread, minced meat over it. So people so much used to eat lahmacun, nobody wanted to have pizza. So a big chain started to have shops in Turkey, whatever, the restaurant chains. It didn't work. And then there was this Ninja Turtles. Do you know those cartoons or whatever? So they started Ninja Turtles in Turkey. All those kids, because in Ninja Turtles, there was always pizza. They were eating the pizza, the turtles. And so the little kids watching Ninja Turtles, they were asking their mothers, what is this pizza? We want to eat pizza. We want to eat pizza. A couple of years back, this chain had the chains in Turkey. You see, this is how culture is not static. You see, once you have this pizza not working, and in a couple of years after watching Ninja Turtles, it becomes part of your culture. So now we have everywhere pizza, of course. So another fact, as I said, is that culture is not static. So now I want to come to the point where I would like to discuss about intercultural mediation. But before I would like to come to intercultural mediation, I want to say that intercultural mediation actually includes intercultural communication. And intercultural communication actually involves, it's very important. Of course, every communication involves sharing ideas, values, beliefs, norms, perspectives, and so on. But in this case, when we talk about intercultural communication, it has the cultural boundaries. So the communication, when we talk about intercultural communication, it has to be across cultural boundaries. So in that sense, intercultural communication encompasses verbal and nonverbal communication, of course, but as well as the understanding of cultural differences and the ability to navigate and adapt to different cultural contexts, which then is very difficult. And when we are talking of today's world, where autocracy is increasing, when autocracy is increasing, it means there is always the other one as an enemy. It means there is always, how to say, polarization. So it becomes more and more difficult within each country, because this means either religious or nationalist speeches are increasing. It means either in an individual level, local level, country level, or global level, because of the increasing autocracy, the culture to understand or to be able to speak in a cultural context is becoming more difficult. Ken has actually a great presentation about that. I think you have to once invite him, because he has his own way of explaining this, and it's a very, very insightful.
I think in the first symposium I did, he's spoken about, of course, that symposium was on culture and traditions, mediation in our culture and traditions. So
I mean specifically about autocracy, about polarization and autocracy. It's great, because I listened to him when the Rotaries had a program, and he was having his presentation. His ideas, the reasons and the solutions on this is wonderful, valuable. I mean, I hope he will contribute to your program on this title too.
Definitely.
So when we come back now about intercultural communication, actually it includes a couple of things. Why I came here, because intercultural mediation includes intercultural communication, and intercultural communication includes a couple of things, okay? And one of them is cultural awareness. And when we are talking about cultural awareness, we are always thinking about different countries, and we have to change this perception first. So when we are really talking about cultural, we may think about from one city to another, or even one company to another, because companies have culture to changes. And when we are talking about mediation, let's say between two companies, when for one, innovation is very important, and for example, the other one, as a culture of the company, tradition is very important, suddenly the mediation between these two companies becomes impossible or very difficult, or it could be very challenging, whatever you may say, okay? So when we talk about culture, please let's do not think about only between countries or regions or so on. Even two companies, they may have two different company cultures, and when they have conflict, this company culture is sitting on the table, okay? So we have to then be aware of this culture. So if you are a mediator, really we have to, and for example, if we do commercial mediation, we have to be aware what kind of company culture they have behind them. What they bring to the table is very much related to that. Then verbal and non-verbal communication. I always say, for example, when you consider a very talkative Italian in compared to very silent and calm Japanese, verbal or non-verbal communication. So it's very easy to remember. This is included. And then cultural contacts is what I have been already pointing out in the previous slides. It includes ideas, it includes the social status, roles, and everything. To understand cultural contacts does not mean that somebody is cultural sensitivity, has cultural sensitivity or adaptability. For example, I may understand, well, okay, this is the culture, I understand the cultural contacts, but I may not be cultural sensitive. I may have so much of my rights and wrongs that I may not be sensitive or I may not be adaptable. It's a very simple sample. My sister and myself, we are grown up in the same family. Once we were invited in a village, and in that house, in that village, people were sitting on the floor and eating something, and this thing was in one big tray, yes? And my sister said, I do not want to sit on the floor. And the whole poor family had to look all around to find a chair for her. Anyway, they found a chair for her. I was sitting on the floor. I mean, why to bother the family? So she was sitting on a chair. So everybody were sitting on a chair. Can you imagine on the floor around this big tray eating, equally. The idea was everybody was equal there, you see, from the cultural point of view. But my sister was sitting on the chair. And then they were trying to find that they found a plate and they brought her. So she was not then, maybe she could understand that people were sitting on the floor and eating, but she didn't see herself equal to those people, you see? So she was not culture sensitive. Sometimes it could be very hard for us, but to be cultural sensitivity means that we accept we are not superior, we are not lesser, we are not higher, we are not more, we are not whatever, but we are equal. And this is very, very important in intercultural communication as well for mediation. So sensitivity brings us equality. And of course, overcoming language barriers and then being aware of conflict resolution are just part of intercultural communication. Now, after speaking all those, Frida, so this is my last slide. Then you can take the stage, okay? Now,
okay.
I just want to mention a couple of things when I said about culture and intercultural communication. And when I say intercultural mediation, it's very difficult. I mean, you can do commercial mediation, you can do even, whatever. In a peer mediation, family mediation, even the emotions could be very high up, whatever, but intercultural mediation is a difficult one. It needs a specific, for me, it needs a specific education. And IMI, if you are familiar to IMI, International Mediation Institute, it has a specific certification for intercultural mediators. And I think it's very, very important. And it is not that everybody can do it. So anyone can do any mediation, maybe, but not that intercultural mediation is for everybody. As it is in the intercultural communication, intercultural mediators should understand the culture. Yeah, they have to understand the cultural differences. They have to be cultural sensible. So they cannot say, well, I understand the cultural context, okay, differences, and so, but they have to be cultural sensible. Otherwise, they cannot be intercultural mediators. As thinking about all this culture as a context, there is a conflict, not only about ideas, but the way people are talking about the ideas, the people about judging those ideas. For example, I'm giving this, the way they are supporting their ideas, the way they communicate while they are supporting the ideas, all these things together makes it more complicated. So two neighbors having conflict is easy, but two cultures different. So communication itself for a mediator becomes facilitation. So you have to make sure, even the word, a simple word like green, white, has to be specified what kind of green it is, because a culture living in the nature may have 200 different version of green, whereas somebody living in, I don't know, in the city of 100 floors of an apartment may have only 3 definitions of green. So it becomes very specific then. Of course, neutral and impartial mediation is important, and conflict resolution skills in that sense is not any longer, let's put that mediation in, when we talk about intercultural mediation, is not any longer an alternative. It is an appropriate dispute resolution. So it can change the place, it can change the process. It could make you more to be an arbitrator. It could be more make you a traditional mediator. It could be whatever. So you have to really consider this conflict, and you have to choose the most appropriate way to manage the process. So when I'm talking here conflict resolution skills, I'm talking about very much, how to say, knowing many different styles, many different types, many different ways, and then to choose the best for that conflict. And then most of the time when we are talking about intercultural mediation, it takes time, as it is part of the culture. It definitely will not end at the end of 1 session or 2 sessions. So it may need a follow-up, or it's a long process. So a mediator accepting an intercultural mediation should understand the nature that it takes a long time. This is all I can say about intercultural mediation. I think we need more and more of that, not only, as I said, sustainability. The whole world is changing towards different way of production, different way of conception, consuming, different way of living. It cannot be that I am alone living in a, I don't know, 1,000 square meter house with, I don't know, whatever, swimming pool, and having, I don't know, 1,000 different clothes in my garderobe or whatever. This world is not going to last. So we are completely, we have to, our children are facing another world, an emerging situation it is, and it's a huge cultural shock, let's say, and all mediators all around the world, they have to work more and more on this, and the shift of, let's say, the perception of new lifestyle, let's say minimalism, sustainability, zero not rubbish, I forgot the word. I mean, it's the whole world is changing, and there will be more and more work for the mediators, for the whole world, for the whole humanity passing through this period. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Deniz. It's very nice. The only thing that we have to discuss is, isn't every mediation intercultural? We have to, we'll come to that. We'll get buy-in, then we'll put our thoughts in that.
This is
Yes.
what I said. Yeah.
Yes, Baiye. What do you have to say about intercultural mediation?
Thank you so much. Since we're coming to an end, so I should just wrap up.
No, you can take your time. There's no issue. There's no, in the last session, there is no end. Last session.
Okay.
Sorry, Frida, I have spoken too long, maybe. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
She's facing this
It's
problem
okay.
for the last session also. Last session also, she went through the same thing. Yes, Baiye.
Okay. Where I'm coming from, when we talk about intercultural mediation, we have to think about conflict. Because if we don't have conflict, we won't practice mediation. That is certain. And you know, conflict is naturally an occurring process, which is part of our human experience. Regardless of our culture, our nationality, there is bound to be conflict. So it is very important to look at our diversity and our culture and see how we can solve a particular problem. Everyone is from a particular culture. I can be from sub-Saharan Africa. We have our own culture. We know that if there is a conflict in the community, we have community heads, we have religious leaders. So these are the people who will likely mediate when there's conflict. In Europe and America, it's different. You have the courts. So I'll take my own cultural background. I'm from Cameroon. And when we talk of conflict and we are looking at solutions, first, you have the head of the household. If it's a conflict from the household, you expect the head of the household to mediate and solve the conflict. If it's at community level, we expect the community heads, or we call them quarter heads, to come in, maybe bring a council of elders, they mediate and resolve the conflict. When it's at regional level, we cannot expect the courts, the senior divisional officers, and other administrators to come in and resolve the conflict. So when we talk about intercultural mediation, conflict comes to mind. Our leaders, community leaders, religious leaders, they come to mind. So it is true, this diversity in culture. When we talk of culture, also we talk about our food, our traditions. We talk about using art to resolve conflict. So each mediator coming on that table knows the background of the people in conflict and has done his or her research on how they are going to resolve that particular conflict. If there are a group of women having a series of conflicts, they are going to engage other women leaders. They are going to engage church leaders who are maybe mostly women, or they're going to engage their pastors. They're going to engage their community leaders, religious leaders. So you see, getting the background to the conflict is almost as resolving the conflict, because once you know the background and you know the people to put in place to mediate in that conflict, then be rest assured that conflict may be resolved. Taking more examples from my background, we have certain food, for example, that are being eaten all. So people grow up in the culture from where they are coming from. We have certain traditional practices. We have religious practices. We have all of these that mold us into the people that we become in future. So therefore, we know our roots and we know where we can easily seek for help when there's conflict. So any mediator coming into that culture, into that region, into that division to resolve a conflict already knows the background from that conflict, already know the people that they can tap resources from and resolve that conflict. So I'll end here by saying that in intercultural mediation, first, you have to master the conflict. You master the target groups, and you know the different cultural diversity that you can bring in order to resolve that conflict. I'll end here. Thank you so much.
So by what you have to answer, the question that I'm asking is
it's raining. It's really, it's raining, so I can't really get you.
You can't? Okay, basically I'm saying, is every mediation intercultural? Or isn't every mediation intercultural? Is that a question? Is that my
maybe
question?
you write a question, I can't get
Okay,
you.
no, we get Deniz in, I'll write the question for you. Yes, Deniz.
Vikram, I have a couple of questions to Frida too, then I will answer your question. It's very interesting and actually a wonderful sample. Thank you, Frida, because you said we have community leaders who are mediators, and then you said they know the community. They know, for example, when the parties are coming to mediation, they know exactly how the parties think and what they need. So in this process, actually, mediator, in our sense, is not a mediator, but more likely, it's a traditional mediation, more likely arbitrator, you know, they knows the parties and probably is managing to, while resolving, let's say, while the mediating, actually acting as an arbitrator. So this is one thing. So I wonder, who are those community leaders? I mean, they are chosen, for example, are they pastors, religious leaders? Are they business people? Are they the oldest ones, elder ones? You know, I would like to know that. And then she said, they need to know the community. And this is exactly one of the things I said. For example, assuming she's from Cameroon, an international organization is looking, there is a conflict, it doesn't matter. Environmental, let's say, yes, and one side is government, the villagers, and then there is a company. And within this dispute resolution, they are looking for mediators. And so now from what Frida is saying, actually, I can understand, even though this international organization would like to have an X mediator, the people in Cameroon will not accept it because the X mediator will not fit to their culture. So they will not want that. So this international organization has to work with a local mediator, knowing the culture. So really, these two things I would like that she answers. Who are those community leaders? What are their backgrounds and so on? And if there was an intercultural, let's say if there was an international mediation, is it true that people in Cameroon would prefer a mediator from the local level?
Yes, Baiye. Did you hear that? Yeah.
We've been having a series of intercommunity dialogues.
Mm-hmm.
We have identified leaders who have resolved farmers' herders' conflict in a very sustainable way, that the conflict has not resurfaced again. Mm-hmm. We have traditional leaders who have a track record of mediating in different conflicts at the grassroots level. So these are the people we identify in case there is conflict. So it's been democratic because people actually ask for these leaders. If there's a conflict, say, no, we want A, B, C from this region, from this subdivision, because we have a track record of seeing them doing this and that. Now they bring them, and maybe we have to, if they are 10, and we go again, maybe there's a vote, and we pick 3 who actually come in a team and do the mediation process. So these are people, community leaders with track records, positive track records.
What we were trying to get into was, I mean, the attempt was that also, is it
my
actually...
volume, this is all my volume can go.
Okay. I mean, basically what we're looking at is there actual mediation happening, or is it someone telling them what to do? Is there an arbitration kind of situation happening? What is there a distinguishing aspect?
No, nobody interferes with the team. For example, we have the farmer herders conflict in womb. Nobody interferes with the team. They have their mandates. They will be given an assignment, probably by parties that we, at the community level, we don't know. But so there's no impartiality. They are people that have come there to do a job. Maybe they have 5 days to resolve a conflict. And they have different groups that they will talk to. There's key informal interviews, there's focus group discussions. They make sure that they touch each part, each target group that will give them answers into resolving that conflict.
But the group
sometimes
is not...
it will take months, sometimes weeks, but the whole target is getting that conflict resolved so that it doesn't come out. Like I keep insisting, if we don't resolve a conflict, mediation is less expensive than a full-blown war. Because not only will you lose lives, livelihoods also will be lost. And women and children will bear the brunt of the crisis. And there'll be an increase in human trafficking. There'll be an increase in human rights abuses. So when a people have suffered certain atrocities, they tend to go for mediation. And that is why they will always look for the best people who would do the mediation in a proper way, without any bias, for us to have results, positive results.
Frida, can I ask one question? What are the most reasons of conflict in Cameroon? I mean, what are the cases most mediated? Sorry, Vikram, I am so interested in, maybe I may just have to say, I don't want to bother your program, but I'm very much
this is what the program is about, to find out.
In Turkey, when we are talking about labor mediation, for example, commercial mediation, or health, mediation within the health sector, or shipping, or whatever, I really wonder what is, because this is also a cultural difference, you see. I mean, what we have here and what is in Cameroon. I really wonder what are, for example, if you were to say, Frida, the most mediated cases, let's say, the top 3, what would be in Cameroon? What are the subjects, let's say? I don't know, the areas.
Okay, we have the farmer herders conflict that is been occurring for a very long time. The farmer herders conflict, the scarce resources, and you see farmers fighting with herders because their cattle comes into their farmlands and eats their crop. This reduces their yield, and it increases poverty too. So, it's human nature, they must fight to reclaim what is theirs. Then now we moved up to the 2000s, where we have the Boko Haram insurgency, where the Boko Haram from Nigeria had to infiltrate into northern Cameroon. And most people were forced to either join the Boko Haram or be killed. So that is another conflict that we have.
Mhm.
So
And
this one now is between the government forces and the Boko Haram insurgency.
okay.
But you see civilians bear 90% the brunt of that war on their bodies and livelihoods.
Mhm.
Young people, even women, are being forced to join them and become suicide bombers.
Ah, okay.
There's an increase in violent extremism.
Mhm. It is
That
very
if not properly mediated at international level, then more people will suffer.
okay.
Then now you come now to the most recent, which is the ongoing armed conflict between the separatist groups and the government of Cameroon, which came as a result of cultural identity. So those are the three main conflicts that we have in Cameroon.
When you are saying the separative groups, do they have, is it the religion? This is the ideology? What makes them different? I mean, what differs them?
It's an ideological conflict to me, but somebody else will have another opinion.
And there are only
maybe,
two.
Maybe I send you my
Or
email
more.
address and we get to talk about this more.
Okay. Okay, ideological.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's for me very interesting. You see, for example, if we were to get to Cameroon, it's totally different when we talk about intercultural mediation. When it comes to Turkey, it's different. So now coming back to your question, Vikram, you said is not every mediation an intercultural mediation? Well, I live on an island in Istanbul, okay? It's called Prince Islands. I would like to show you the wonderful sea view, but it's better you see me. I'm a nice woman. So, but anyway.
Maybe that's also not too bad. Maybe that's also not too bad. We can see that also.
But the point is what I wanted to say. On the islands, we have diverse groups. For example, in the place I live, we have Armenians and Jewish people and Turkish people. Like myself, okay? I call myself Turkish. I may have a diverse background, but so. You see, if I were to have a conflict with one of my neighbors, we may call it intercultural mediation, intercultural conflict, and it could be an intercultural mediation. If I have to have a conflict with my sister, I tell you, it becomes also kind of, I wouldn't say intercultural, but my sister and myself became so different over the years. Exactly. As I become so international, and then she's living in her own city. We see things, I mean, we understand each other, we talk each other, but if we were to have a conflict, we would have completely, even though we were grown up in the same family,
exactly,
we have different culture now, let's say. Our culture developed differently. So from this perspective, yes, from my apartment to my sister, or even to companies, as I gave the sample, company cultures could be so different, or from different regions and so on. I may agree what you said, that more or less, maybe one conflict could have more influence of intercultural differences. One may have lesser, but each may have a touch, yes.
Well, I think why I say this is because a lot of times it's nice theoretically when people talk about culture and intercultural, it's nice to have these conversations in relation to groups. Let's look at Indians and let's look at that, and let's look at how when you mediate with an Indian there or a Turkish there. I think that's really very nice to have these sessions and tell people, have these little groups to tell them. It doesn't work that way. Indians are 1.4 billion people on this planet. If you can talk about Indian culture, I think then I think people don't understand India. So there is no concept of that. But it's nice thing if you are doing a course on cultural, like you said, a certain certification on intercultural, you have to bring it down to something. So let's look at it from nation's perspective and all those things. But according to me, it's so individual. Baiye, the person she is, or Deniz, the person you are. I mean, if I really generalize you as Turkish or Cameroonian, I think I'll be doing injustice to you people. So I think we have to be able to get into the individual. So it's individual and those aspects of the individual, which from the cultural perspective, what you bring in as your culture as an individual, I think I look at that as more of a aspect in mediation. Because if you don't respect that individual and that individual's culture, I think we are not doing mediation justice.
Yes, I would agree you, yes. I don't know what Frida thinks, but I would agree you.
Baiye can't hear us properly. Baiye, did you hear that? What I said? Baiye? Did you hear us? Did you hear me? I gave my lecture on intercultural mediation. Did you hear me or not?
Oh, I can't get you.
Okay, you didn't hear me. Okay, then I'll repeat it some other time.
Okay. So, well, if I were to say maybe some last words, let me see what it would be. Firstly, I would like to thank you. Oh, Frida is here again.
She's there.
Back.
She actually said there's some rain happening there, so she can't hear too much. So that background noise is too much for her, I think. So
I
she
don't
can't.
know.
Yeah, that's why she said there was rain, the heavy rain or something.
Okay. Rain is good. It's better than not to have rain.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, well, I want to say something really. When we are even as last words, my grandmother was a Russian woman, and she passed when she was 80 in 1980. And while she was living in Turkey, she couldn't say she was Russian because Turkey was a member of NATO. And, you know, that time to be Russian, oh my God, you are a communist, bad communists, die. You cannot even leave. So this poor woman, anyway. But I tell you now, today, 2023, Erdogan is supporting Putin. You know, when I was talking about culture is not static, you know, it's about ideas as well. It's about culture is about ideas, about ideologies, everything. It includes, as I said, I mentioned the context. So we should always be aware that whatever we are talking about today, either micro or macro level, it doesn't matter. When we talk about culture, it is something of today, and tomorrow it will be different. And the way we live today, I mean, the way we so fastly changing in everywhere in the whole world. What we say today is not a fact tomorrow, or is not true tomorrow, or is not right tomorrow. So this is the most challenge of intercultural mediation. If you get into this, you have to continuously develop yourself. I mean, every mediator has to, but this is because soon we will have technology in a way that maybe robots will be in our lives, or half robot, half humans. And there will be some totally different ethical questions and conflicts that we will face. Not to mention, as I said, sustainability is at our door. So intercultural mediation is an area I would really, any young mediator who are looking for something challenging, you know, yes, I want to get into this. I want to continuously learn and develop myself. And I really, you know, I would like to do something good for the whole world, then I think intercultural mediation is a way. It's a really way, because we are in a very interesting stage of humankind, the time we know, let's say. So this is my
Well,
last.
how I look at it is very different. I feel that there is this connection that you have to make with people on a very, okay, I keep saying this heart, soul, spirituality words I use a lot. I use them a lot. But there is a certain connection that as an individual to individual that happens that goes beyond any concept of culture. It has nothing to do with anywhere that the person came from when you connect at a certain level. So I am going on the other side and I'm saying that even young people connect to people on a very different, deeper level, and all these cultural aspects that people keep talking about, they just move away. It's just that these layers have been put because it benefited some people to put those layers, but actually when you go deeper, there is a person sitting there who doesn't have those layers there. It's that heart soul spirituality thing. But I wish Baiye could hear us. Baiye, I wish you could hear us and join the conversation, but she's not being able to hear us. Yes, Baiye? 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 Baiye is not here. Baiye cannot hear us. Yes, Baiye, can you hear us or not? You can't hear us. Okay.
No.
No.
Okay.
Okay. So anyways, I think that this conversation obviously is really nice. Thank you very much for Baiye, are you here with us?
Yes. Any last word? Should I give my last words?
Yes, your last, not your last words,
Okay,
your concluding remarks. We don't want your last
should
words so
be
soon.
that we shouldn't only look at our ethnicity, cultural beliefs, and our backgrounds. We should have a broader mind when we are mediating, because you may be solving a problem from a community where not everybody who is a recent settler in that community has the same background or ethnicity. So there's sometimes we have to bring in the law and other rules that may help us in resolving that conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's raining heavily. I think it's time for me to step out.
All right. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure seeing you. Bye. So thank you. Thank you, Deniz. I think this discussion definitely, I think we should have one topic which only talks about this. Isn't every mediation intercultural, and does culture really matter in mediation? All those kinds of things we have to really, it all depends on the individual. I think it all comes down to the mediator themselves, their own connection with themselves. It is at a deeper level, or is it not? Have you been able to go beyond those layers and got into you? Then you can connect on a different level, because you're not connecting at the layers that have been put by the world on you. All those discussions, this has to continue. I mean, this is not, this is just a starting point.
Yes, let's do it. This is a beginning, and let's keep on talking about it.
We'll do a whole symposium on this topic. We'll do a symposium by itself. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye. Bye. Can you hear us? Bye.
Bye.